Good day and welcome to our Coffee and Cloud Series live event, Why MFA? My name is Alan Falcon. I'm CEO of Cumulus Global. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day and week to join us here this afternoon. As we get into this quick, hopefully 15-minute session, just a quick reminder that our audio is muted to prevent any background noise from getting in the way. So anytime in the session you have questions or comments, please use that questions window accessed by the icon along the top or right-hand side of your screen. We do record the session. It'll be up on the website on our Coffee and Clouds page as well. And a quick reminder that Coffee and Clouds is just one of many resources we publish on a regular basis, including our Third Tuesday at 3 webcast series. We've got new bulletins covering all things Microsoft Cloud and Google Workspace that are relevant to small and mid-sized entities. As well as some great recent blog articles, particularly relating to storage limits, the elimination of added storage and pooled storage in Google Workspace with the new Google Workspace licensing changes. So feel free to take advantage of those and sign up for the resources that you think will benefit you. So as we talk about MFA or multi-factor authentication today, start with the very simple definition, right? It's a multi-step account process that requires users to enter more information than just a password. And there are really three types of MFA out there at a macro level. A lot of people, it's least recently or least commonly used as something you are, such as a fingerprint or thumb scan, facial scan, or iris scan. Yep, a lot of our laptops now have, fingerprint scans. Those don't always integrate into other application systems beyond the operating system and what that computer was designed to do. The others are something you have, such as a code or a notification or a physical token or something you know, which goes beyond your password or phrase, but really to additional information that is hopefully secret and special only to you. And when we talk today, we're going to focus on things you know and things you have, as those are the most common and applicable to the folks we work with. And it's important to know that there are many methods for multi-factor authentication. So maybe you say, well, gee, I don't need MFA because I answer security questions. Well, security questions is a form of multi-factor authentication. They work well for a lot of people because they're personal and they're easy to remember. The challenge now, particularly in the days of social media, is it's easy to gather that information from social media and public sources, right? So you go on to Facebook and there's a fun quiz. And one of the questions is, what's your first car, or who is your third grade teacher? And you put it in and you get some result about what, Star Trek or Star Wars character you'd be. All those people are doing is gathering personal information that they're going to turn around and sell on the dark web. And scammers will buy that data and use it to come at you and to gain access, or even, they even know which questions banks ask, so they'll build those into their surveys, right? So that's the con. Next up is getting that code by SMS message. We're all familiar with it. You get a text message on your phone. It's convenient. If you're accessing something on your mobile device, you just copy and paste it into the web page or into the application security page for logging on. The downside is it's becoming more common to spoof and spearfish, where people are tricking you, either sending false codes or tricking you into sharing that code as a way of getting in. So it's not quite as secure as it used to be. Many systems will offer the ability to say that same code by email. Again, it's convenient. It's copy and paste, not just on mobile, but if you're on a desktop, anywhere you can have multiple web browsers open. But there again, one of the things we see is oftentimes those confirmation emails are going to an email account that is compromised. And so the attacker actually can read the email that has the code that lets them pretend to be you. We're seeing more of this. I know PayPal has rolled this out to a bit and some other commerce sites. It's a one-time password. And here what they're doing is every time you go to log in, it, at your option, text or email or phone call, will give you a one-time password. It's similar to codes by SMS and email. And yeah, the same risk that the receiving account could be at risk or could be compromised. The other option here, the other issue here is these passwords tend to be strong passwords. So they're longer, they mix letters, numbers, and special characters, which actually requires a little more work to copy and paste. You can't just double click on it and capture the whole password. You've got to click and drag, copy, paste over. So it can be prone to mistakes of grabbing extra characters or missing characters and causing timeouts and failures. I assume we're all familiar with authenticator apps that push a code to you. This is the situation where you open up the app, you look up the account you're trying to get into. There's a code that changes every minute. You copy that code from the app into the login screen. It's great because it's time sensitive. It expires. The downside is accuracy and timing, right? Particularly if you're grabbing the code from the authenticator app on your phone and putting it into a web page that's or an application login screen that's on a computer. Man, if you open it up and you look at it and there's only 15 seconds left, you have enough time to actually do it. Are you going to miss it? You have to start over. A technique that Google's using now, which we find interesting and is somewhat, has some interesting aspects to it, is related app entry. And so at times when you log into Google Workspace, depending on how you've set up multi-factor authentication, it might actually ask you to open the Google app on your phone, YouTube, or the Mail app on your phone, the Google Mail app on your phone, and confirm that it's you who's trying to log in. And so this is nice because the pro, from a security standpoint, is it requires your access to an independent application. The downside is you need to have, if you're using this as your primary means, you need to be able to open and access those additional apps. And at times that can just be a user inconvenience or a user challenge, depending on how many apps they have on their phone. And maybe it's calling for an app that you don't normally use, and you miss the notification window and you have to go find the app. It can be a little irritating for some users. And then there's the Authenticator app, which is pull. And this is a strategy that Microsoft has started implementing. So rather than you opening up the Authenticator app and grabbing the code and putting it into the login screen, this is a pull. So the login screen is going to generate a code or a number. Microsoft, with Microsoft 365 editions, it'll generate typically a 2-digit number. You then open the Authenticator app and enter the code into the app. So the app is pulling the code in, and then the app on the back end tells Microsoft 365, hey, this has been confirmed, it's going. And again, it works really well. It's an accuracy and timing thing. Do you have the time you need to get the code, get it in, have the system process it, and log in? And finally is the authentication key. And this is where you have you as the end user have physical control of a device that provides the changing codes. And sometimes it's a key fob, that has a battery in it that generates, that takes the signal and generates the code, and it's on your keychain, or it's a card, almost like a credit card that can generate the codes that sits in your wallet or your pocketbook. It can also be a USB device that plugs in and generates the code and will actually feed it into the login screen at the appropriate time. Works really well. This is one of the highest levels because you need physical control of that device to log in. And so it's very hard for someone else to pretend you're you. The downside, of course, is you need alternate means of access if that device gets lost or damaged. So with those different methods and an understanding that there are varying levels of effectiveness and security that come with it, you can pick which ones are you and your users feel are most convenient and functional. Why would we go through this effort? And well, you are a target, right? Small businesses have fewer security measures. You have a lot of data that's actually in demand by cyber attacks. In fact, we know that in the first half of this year, cyber attacks attempting to get information out of small, mid-sized businesses jumped several 100%, right? Because you've got personal information about yourself, your employees, your customers, you have financial transaction information. And again, you don't have the power of a large corporate IT environment and a huge cadre of outside security vendors who, in the budget to build infrastructure that's as bulletproof as larger corporations. Small businesses tend to also work in collaborative teams, not just internally, but with freelancers, vendors, partners, and even their customers. And it's more often that small businesses have shared administrative support, right? So you have access to your systems, but so do your IT providers and your IT support folks, and some of your IT vendors might need access in order to provide the support they provide. So there's holes and other points of entry into your system that larger, mid-sized and larger businesses may not have. And obviously there are multiple attack vectors that work, really well. particularly with smaller businesses where you don't necessarily have the ongoing education and training for you and your team about what the risks are and things to be on the lookout for. And so oftentimes attacks to get business information come through personal email addresses. Again, people pulling stuff off social media and publicly available information. And you're still susceptible to third-party app breaches. We know, for example, that anyone who used their work email address for LinkedIn a few years ago was part of one of the largest breaches, right? Now, you say, well, they got my LinkedIn user identity and password. Well, the LinkedIn is your work email. They had access to your LinkedIn account with all sorts of other information in it. And most humans use similar passwords across systems. So how far away is your LinkedIn password from your other passwords as far as someone coming up with a pattern or guessing or seeing if it works? Or using that LinkedIn password and permutations to just brute force try and get into something else you're doing. So when we talk about MFA, MFA focuses on account compromised attacks, right? Meaning the username is known, your password is known, someone's actually trying to log in, and you want to stop it in process. You want to prevent that access. And Microsoft back in 2019 commissioned a study that found that the percentage of account compromised attacks that multi-factor authentication can prevent is 99.9%. It is incredibly reliable and incredibly robust. And granted, there are more secure and less secure versions of multi-factor authentication, but having any form of MFA in place is going to dramatically improve your security posture. As an example, we have never seen a cyber insurance questionnaire or pre-underwriting survey form or application that did not ask if you had multi-factor authentication for everything, not for critical systems, for every login, for every application, for every service your business uses. Why? Because the insurance company knows if you have it, there's less likelihood that they're going to spend money on claims with you. And so when we look at protection and prevention, multi-factor authentication, keep in mind it's part of a more broad and robust things you can do. With small businesses, we like to focus on the most common types of attacks, the ones you're most likely to receive, as well as the most expensive types of attacks should they happen, right? So anything to do with account compromise that would lead to ransomware, encryption of your files being held for ransom, the threat of release of data, unauthorized release of personal information that could put you afoul of industry or legal regulations, those types of attacks. And then the most expensive attacks are actually ones that are impersonation, where someone in your company, one of your customers is enticed or redirected to send money to the wrong place, and literally the money's just gone, right? So there are a whole set of protections that are out there. Most of these cost some money. You need to implement some software. There's some training involved. You have to maintain it. You're paying for a service that helps you provide it. Multi-factor authentication in and of itself is free in that you don't have to pay money for software for it. Now, in doing that, MFA is built into Microsoft 365. It's built into Google Workspace. It's built into many, if not all, of your SaaS applications and services you're using, right? So there's no software cost where you have to pay extra, but there is an operational cost to it, right? If you're going to go free MFA, then you'll have one MFA account, and method for each login that you and your users have. You'll have to set that up for every app and service. Your authenticator apps, and I'll say plural, get crowded, which makes it a little less convenient to use because you're scrolling to find the right account. And sometimes the account names in the authenticator apps are intuitive, sometimes they're not. And you may need more than one authenticator app. In fact, in my daily life, I actually have 3 different authenticator apps on my phone because we've got services that will work with Google Authenticator. We've got some that work with Microsoft Authenticator, and we've got some that work on a third-party, proprietary authenticator that company happens to own and manage and offers a service as well. And so you can simplify things using single sign-on services, and they can provide those solutions to give you one MFA solution across multiple apps and services. The challenge is for small businesses, depending on how you go with this, that cost per user per month can be significant. And so with that, what are the next steps, right? Well, we're here to help you. So we can help look and do an assessment to see where you are from an overall security footprint. We're happy to talk to you about how and where you have MFA, where it's easy to deploy, where you want, prioritize rolling it out and help you roll it out to your staff, and then support it, right? Because MFA involves involves application installation on individuals' mobile devices, making sure they understand how to use it, understanding what, if you are going to take MFA by text message, understanding to identify spoofed messages that you shouldn't respond to, things of that nature. And so what we'll do is, because you've attended here today, we're going to offer you a free rapid security assessment that takes a look at the core security capabilities in your environment as it relates to the most common and the most expensive types of cyber attacks. We can then talk to you about planning your solution. You select what you need and want. It's based on your needs, your priorities, and your budget. We're sensitive to budget as well. And then we can help you execute, select what you need, get it deployed. And so you can contact us, or you can use the QR code and schedule a call with one of our cloud advisors directly on your mobile device if you scan that QR code. And so I want to think that's it for today. We've covered MFA, what it is, how it works, why it's beneficial and you should have it, and the operational and cost implications of using what's built into the services you're already paying for or going with a third-party application. So at this point, I want to thank everyone for joining us or for watching the session online. I'm going to stop the recording now, and I will stay on the line. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to spend a few minutes online here and answer them. But for the folks who are watching this on demand, thanks for doing so, and let us know if we can help.